used to own the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're evaluating other platforms outside of Lotus. Lotus is a big part of their email messaging platform, and the CIO opened up a Twitter account. He's still an egg. 6 months later, he's an egg. He won't show his face. He's checking things out. He's trying to get a feel for it. He connects with me, DMs me. It's nothing but DMs, and he thinks Big Brother's watching. I said, well, 1.3 million tweets per hour, or you're not being seen by anybody.
He's using it as very tiny email.
Very, very tiny.
I wish all my emails were 140 characters.
So, from that standpoint, we have customers that, I think it just depends on the culture of the organization as well. I mean, it really does. I mean, this next generation of workers, I have a niece who has moved to Hawaii this month to do her graduate studies. I don't even know what her email is. No. It's all through Facebook, text, Twitter. That generation, I don't have email addresses for. And those are the folks that are going to be entering the workforce. I have another large client, a construction client for the state of Delaware, who told me in a chamber event, a local event, that said, Carlos, my customers are retiring and their sons and daughters are taking over the business. And I don't know how to communicate with them. I'm struggling with it. So I gave them some examples of online collaboration. I gave them some examples of, and I brought this up in our session at Lotus Sphere Day. And I think this was a great story. He cornered me at this past Christmas at the event. He said, look, these guys are 30, 40 years old. They're new CEOs. They've taken over the company, and they don't answer my emails. I pick up the phone. They don't even they don't want to answer my phone calls. But they're all over everything else, LinkedIn. And I gave them some examples of online collaboration, private intranet sites, collaborating, collecting information, connecting them to other channels. And before I even said the words IBM, he stopped me in the middle of my sentence. He goes, Carlos, I don't give a rat's ass what it is. I want what you just said. I want what you just said. I don't care what the vendor is or the brand. And that was resonating to me because we have a lot of customers with older, more mature owners.
Thank you.
Who are leaving, who have their customers who are retiring, who bring in their sons and daughters to run the company, and they're the ones walking with the iPhones and iPads, right? So it's interesting, So I'm happy to share those stories with you. Those are some nice examples that I can elaborate on. But from an admin developer standpoint, that's what you're going to see coming down the pipe. Whether you call it social mail collaboration, those are some evolutionary things that are going to happen. But in the LE and INA accounts, I think you're going to see a revolutionary change in the way people communicate.
And in the interest of time, I'm actually not going to let quite everybody answer it. Sorry, because I want to ask another question along the same lines. Actually, now that we're down to David. So, because Carlos started to, I'm putting David on the hot seat, so I thought I'd give Ed a day off. So, Carlos kind of touched on, this whole consumerization of IT, that people are coming in with iPads, people are coming in with iPhones. And I know IBM has a great mobile strategy and has a lot in progress. But do you feel like IBM really fully appreciates the consumerization of IT, or do you feel like most of the organization is still sort of selling to big corporations that maybe haven't been quite as fast on this trend? How aware is IBM about that trend, and how concerned are they in their strategy?
It's a great question. I think we are very aware, very cognizant of what's going on in the consumer web. And I get to read as part of the answer I had ready for the question. The consumer web space is only a partial model, right? I've read countless articles about the reason social is a revolution is because the kids don't have email. And I tweeted this a couple of months ago. The kids also don't have jobs. Your cousin who's or your niece who's in graduate school, she's still in school.
Right.
No one's going to post her pay stub on her Facebook wall.
She's super cum laude, though.
It's not. The first thing that's going to happen when she walks in the door, she's going to get an email.
That's true.
If you sign up for a Facebook account, which my younger children are bugging me about, first thing they got to do is they got to get an email address. business. Because that's your universal identifier.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And that's the place that things are for you and only for you are going to go. That's the place that processes are going to connect with you for approvals, right? So it's very much evolution. So we're trying to take the best of the consumer web in terms of concept and UI ideas and thought and enterprise grade it. Because you can't take the whole thing, right? You say, I'm going to be entirely consumer, I'm going to run my business on Facebook. If I said the things on Twitter that I say on my connection status, now I'd be fired. I then would lose a whole lot of business because if my competitors have any smarts at all, they're following me. Right? So it's like, if I say I have an appointment with, Carlos's company tomorrow, Microsoft's going to make one on Friday.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that separation of duties, that firewall there between the consumer space and you mentioned the mobile device space, and that's the one where it's particularly tricky. I mean, we're working a lot with them, we're working a lot with Apple, with Android, how you sandbox that. Because the device is the device, and you can bring that in, but I want to be able to wipe the corporate data off of it if I fire it, for example.
Right.
And you don't want your Susie's phone number to go away off of your personally owned, bring your own device if you get fired.
Yeah, or the example Darren always uses is your last picture of your grandmother before she passed away. Corporate IT wipes it off. That's
unacceptable.
You don't want to do that. Right.
So we're picking our way through how we meld the consumer UI, the consumer experience, and the requirements of an enterprise. Legal, compliance, security, all the stuff that we're really good at.
So Bernie, just to kind of bring this, again, back down to earth a little bit, because this is a real thing. This is a big deal thing. This is not just something that IBM invented. Having said that, it's also not magic. You see a lot of 25-year-olds with a Facebook account that are trying to sell themselves as a social media expert because they know how to do Facebook. So we do have to kind of bring it down a little bit. It's not magic. So are there any things that social can't do or that you see being sort of overhyped?
Yeah, I believe so. Social, I mean, right now it's a big buzzword in the marketplace, but social is. I think we've come to the realization that just because we say we are social, just because we say we're doing it, that path to be successful in that is actually quite difficult. It's not as easy as one thinks. If you indulge me, I'll give you a little bit of background where I'm saying that our company, Music Technology, actually had a social networking site that we actually wrote back in 2002. Our claim to fame was that, well, I'm not so sure it's fame because nobody knows about it, but our claim was that we actually wrote our application 6 months before Facebook did. Now, that being said doesn't mean anything, because you don't know about it. If you go and Google the site, mylifecircle.com is still there, but it doesn't mean anything, because we did not understand the Twitter situation of 500,000. We know what it was, but we don't know how to get there. So you're right in the sense that social media, for us, it might be an easy thing to think, oh yeah, I want to be in it, and how do I get there? It's a difficult task. It's not an easy task for all of us. Adoption, I think a couple of words, adoption of the critical mass is important. The adoption of the other piece of that's my Alzheimer kicking in. But anyway,
I have the same problem. That's why I go on.
But anyway, those adoptions of those things are absolutely important for you to strategize yourself to go forward. But I think all of us, being technicians or that kind of people, I keep saying I think we should be the one or the go-to person to bring back down to earth to our business clients who come in and say, I want this, I believe this product is better. This product's better. No, it doesn't matter which product you're dealing with. You are the technologist, you know how these pieces come together, and there is a real matter of fact that you're not going to be there in 6 months. Now, that doesn't mean that people hasn't done that, okay? I believe some of the speakers this afternoon will talk about how they'll be succeeded in short time. But man, those I really like to learn how to do. I haven't figured it out yet. But I think there is a real fact of the matter is it's not like, oh yeah, I'm on it, I'm there.
It's the business outcomes, it's the measurements,
Yes.
it's the baseline, it's how are you going to prove whether whatever technology or capability you implemented was successful or not.
Yeah. You're correct.
So I do have, we're almost out of town. I do have a wrap-up question, but I want to give the opportunity, if there's anybody in the audience that has a real burning question, I don't want to take up all the time, so kind of last call. Okay, go ahead.
I do. You know, when we look at this socialization, it's part of revolution or whatever, but I'm also calling it an evolution, because it's bringing kind of evil to the human being. I'm a people person, but now when I talk to people who's under 30, it's almost like they cannot articulate anymore because of socialization, because of the tweet. You know, they can only talk in really short little sentence, which I don't understand what is the point. The point is lost in 140 words.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that type of thing that we really need to look at the whole society. Because, you know, like in the healthcare field, if the nurses are going to talk in 140 characters or whatever, how are they going to really provide the quality care? So that's one aspect that I don't think anybody has really looked at it. It's really the evilization of our society.
Yeah, and this is something where I see, I think especially, do we have any developers in the room? How many admins?
One.
Okay. All right, well, I won't tell this story. But I do think the developers Lotus developers kind of have an advantage because they've always been able to go and talk to the client or the end user, gather requirements, turn that into software. So I think, again, we're pretty well positioned to help some of those people bridge the gap back. You know, take the headphones out, talk to other people. So how are we going to stop right on time? Because I know we got a late start.
Okay. I have one comment on that last one I think is interesting. So it's the way you use social is very important, right? So here's a healthcare example. Surgeon is performing surgery in front of a bunch of interns. And these interns are in their 20s. And they're using a specific hashtag to show the community out, the other medical community out there, oh, here's an education platform for you guys to tweet in real time the surgery. Something goes wrong during the surgery. They're missing a piece or a part. The doctor performing the surgery is older. Time to, we're going to lose this patient. We don't have this part. We got to make phone calls. We got to find out who has it. Because of the real-time tweeting and the other hospitals in the city, some of the interns watching that stream, they were able to tweet back, we have that part to save that person's life.
Wow.
So,
It could be a lawsuit nightmare.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because they have that.
There's always a positive and negative. There's always a positive and negative to everything. And if we're optimistic, right, if we're optimistic, then you've created a way for people to connect instantaneously in real time. Okay? So the liability part is always going to be there. Where you're emailing, whether you're picking up the phone, there's going to be liability. But that's just one example of the way you use social. It's not necessarily to have a conversation that's going to, I see the point there, but it's also the platform and how you communicate.
Can I comment on that? 2 points. I'm going to basically agree with him because honestly the solution to the liability problem is to hurt fewer people.
She got a retort before you open somebody up.
But the other thing, Jenny, that you mentioned, I had a parent in the healthcare system intensely last year, and I haven't really paid attention. I work in healthcare, but I hadn't really been there as a patient or family member in 20 years, and the whole way in which people communicated is different. I mean, nurses now, when they change shifts, it's looking at the electronic medical record. They don't really talk to one another anymore. So you can see how these technological solutions, which the patient safety movement has invested in big time, to try to curb human error, which we know is a given, has created some new errors. I mean, it's like any solution. It creates some new problems you've got to deal with.
But the old channels continue to exist. I heard someone talking to a customer the other day, and they said, "Well, we're not participating in social media. Our employers don't use it." And I'm like, "Well, do you allow mobile devices on the premises, or do you have a large lead dome mower and people in the building?" You can't opt out of social.
Yeah.
So that's the point I was going to get to too. Is that it's technology, but it is culture, and the two have to be working together.
Right. And when culture and technology collide, culture typically wins.
Yeah.
So you have to think about the way the platform and how it's used. And
Well, let's go down real quick, because the one thing that I put in our description that I haven't covered, and I want to make sure everybody gets what was in the description, is action item or a tip. But it sounds like this is not a real technical crew, except we have some admins over there. So and we don't know where you all are. Presumably some people are social media gurus and some people haven't gotten their internet connection set up yet. So, but give us like one tip or one action item. If we want to do more with social, we want to learn more, we want to get our feet wet, what would you recommend, Bernie?
I would say look at it, again, I come back to the same thing. It's not a single brand.